Every time Chinese talk about Japan's invasion of China, some Americans jump in with this. But Mao killed more Chinese people than the Japanese did.
It's such a delight to have you tune in, amazing viewer. Thank you so much for being here. I've been following up this conversation about Mao on TikTok, and I've realized that so many people out of China know very little about Mao, but they believe what they know is what is right. But in this compilation, we are going to see and unpack and learn. Like the video for recommendations and then dive in.
Hello guys, you have to learn some basic history about China. Chairman Mao took over China after the World War II, after the Civil War in China.
Chinese talk about Japan's invasion of China. Some Americans jump in with this. But Mao killed more Chinese people than the Japanese did. Seriously? Let me ask you this. Next time two Americans are angrily talking about Pearl Harbor, try interrupting them with this. Well, white Americans killed more native people than the Japanese did. Guess what kind of reaction you will get. Exactly, if you are educated, you should know, don't mix two completely different things together. Japan's invasion of China is not about domestic Chinese politics. It's about the foreign power bombing cities, committing massacres, experimenting on civilians. Just like Pearl Harbor matters to Americans, Nanjing matters to us. When someone say, oh, Japan's invasion isn't a big deal because Mao also made mistakes, it's like saying Pearl Harbor wasn't a big deal because the US also invaded other countries. The logic is messed up. This isn't about defending Mao. This is about acknowledging Japan's responsibility without deflection. And when you constantly change the subject, you are not being clever. You are just being disrespectful, especially to survivors and their families. I'm Yuan, a Chinese scholar unpacking how this country really works, one story at a time.
Mao Zedong is not Chinese Adolf. The 10 quadrillion people that died in China or whatever, that happened because of a mismanagement of like the ecosystem and shit, and it made a famine that was already happening every single year for hundreds of years worse. And after that, it never happened again. It's not like Mao lined a bunch of people up and boomed them, bro. He was running a country from scratch. No experience being the leader of a country. China didn't even have a government before Mao. It wasn't even a real country before Mao. How many times do I have to tell you this? He's not the same thing as Mustache Man, bro. Y'all equate Mao to Mustache Man. How would you do if you were running a country from scratch? How would you do? If niggas told you to run agriculture right now, how many people gonna die? Exactly. And it was 100 million niggas in China.
Every time I read Mao, I feel like my mind is expanding. I'm going to read a quote from a report he gave in 1938 entitled The Role of the Chinese Communist Party in the National War. It's very short, stay with me. He says, "For us, defeatism is a crime, and to strive for victory in the war of resistance is an inescapable duty. For only by fighting in defense of the motherland can we defeat the aggressors and achieve national liberation. And only by achieving national liberation will it be possible for the proletariat and other working people to achieve their own emancipation." Defeatism is a crime. Obviously, it doesn't mean like literally, like you should go to jail. But like, as revolutionaries, we must have hope. We must fight for a better world despite the immense obstacles in our path. We have a world to win. Solidarity forever.
My opinion of Mao, it's complicated. The other day I caught myself singing 北京的金闪闪光芒照四方，毛主席就是那天上的太阳。I was singing, Chairman Mao is like the brightest sun in the sky, unironically, passionately. That's how I heard this song growing up. My mom loved this song. And when I think of home, sometimes the song just comes to me. But the official statement about Mao is half and half. He did something great, funded the country, and he did something really bad in the 50s, 60s. But personally, whenever I think of Mao, a small episode of his life somehow jumps in my mind. It's just a peculiar moment of history. When he was young, he was a bright student, but he couldn't get into, say, Beijing University, the most prestigious university in China. But he somehow get a job working in the library of Beijing University. And he will go to some of the famous professors' class to listen, to learn. And one of the famous professor is Hu Si. And he's a student of John Dewey in University of Chicago. John Dewey is a famous philosopher known for his view on democracy. So Hu Si definitely is teaching that. We will hope Mao learn more, right? But when the room gets crowded, even the registered students cannot get a seat, and he's not a formal student. So once he was kicked out, he hated. Like how Donald Trump hated when he was roasted by Seth Meyers. That's a critical moment for people to make up some mind. How I wish Beijing University just have a bigger room and let Mao just learn more democracy. Maybe history will change. Why do the people of China still hold such high regard for Mao until now? To be honest, I hold high regard for Mao, even though knowing that he made huge mistake at the end of his life. But that doesn't change the contribution he already made for China. You can't name one person other than Mao who's more instrumental than the founding of modern China till the current day China, right? Okay, so his vision is that China was weak, which is a fact. China was very weak, okay? So the Opium War and Qing government weak, we all know. After that, there's a string of government in China. Many of them are actually democratic, like a parliament-style government. That doesn't change anything. So China was weak. For example, in World War I, okay, so whatever government that's in China at that time, pretty sure it's a parliamentary system. But that government, why as representative of China, okay, in the international affair, after joining the World War I, winning at the winning side with the ally, and in the negotiation of the Treaty of Versailles, okay, at that time, all the country together, they decided that the Shandong province that was controlled by German, who was defeated in World War I, now, instead of return to China, the winning country, they gave the interest of Shandong to Japan, just because all the big guys decided that's the best way. Everybody get a little piece of China. That's the best way. The Chinese government is weak. That has been the story until 1949. China is just weak. Okay, so Mao has this vision that one of the reasons that China was weak is that the people are weak. The mass are weak. People, all the peasants in China work so hard that they are that poor because they don't own the land. The landlord own the land. No matter how hard they work, they will poor. And when the mass is poor, is weak, the country is weak. So he had a vision that China need to be strong. People need to be strong. So when he were able to founded the new China, and he were able to redistribute the land. Okay, a lot of people will be scared by this. It's not communism. Okay, so try to the land should collectively owned, and then people, everybody should have the right to the land, and that gave really the country a fresh start, and that's the basis that people will be strong, because now it's not like 1% of people that owning pretty much everything. Okay, Mao did that. Mao did that for everybody in China. Okay, he didn't do for his group of class. Okay, so he did that for everybody in China. Okay, so as a leader, I could say that he's not corrupt. Like, he died without a lot of personal property, and I think he sent his only son to the battlefield in Korea, and he died. His son died. Okay, so as a leader, at least he has this. Even you say that's a gesture, maybe. At least he's willing to make a gesture that he's part of the people that fight for China to make China strong. That's his goal. That's his vision. And at the end of his life, he was, I think, demented. Cultural Revolution is the worst part of his life, but that really didn't change what he has done for every Chinese people.
Mao Zedong did a very good job at liberating his country, but most of the economic success of China has to be credited towards Deng Xiaoping, who opened China to the global marketplace. But even then, until now, a lot of people, especially Chinese people, still respect Mao Zedong because he had good intentions, and he really liberated China from all these foreign influences. He never allowed any country to bully China. That was actually the very first time when China was actually free from any external influence. Now, another thing is that Mao Zedong also sent his own children to war. You look at all these warmongers around the world. Are they sending their own children to war? Is Putin sending his own children to war? Is Netanyahu sending his own children to war? If there is a war in the Philippines, do you think Marcos is sending his children to war? You know the answer to that. Mao Zedong did not. Mao Zedong sent his own son to war because he believed in the cause. He did whatever he could for China. That's why he is still revered and very praised among Chinese people.
Imagine being a leader and everyone's telling you, just follow the textbook, copy what worked in other countries. But Mao had a different take, and he changed everything. Here is what's wild. Even when the Soviet Union, the biggest revolutionary power at the time, gave perfect solutions, Mao said, hold up, China's success depends on understanding China's own situation. He basically said, hey, stop copying from books blindly. Get out there and see what's really happening. Think about it. How many times have you seen people fail because they just copied without understanding? Here's the mind drop moment. He said, no investigation, no right to speak. And he wasn't just talking. When others were making plans in comfortable rooms, he was out there
talking to people, understanding real situation. He used this amazing metaphor. Investigation is like a 9-month pregnancy, and solving problems is like giving birth. You can skip the pregnancy and expect a healthy baby, right? He kept saying, we need to constantly investigate, constantly understanding our changing reality. So a comment if you believe success comes from understanding your own situation, not blindly copying others.
Listen up, here's a wild story about how history flips. Back in wartime China, Mao dropped this truth bomb. No machines, no victory. Man, was he right? Fast forward to now, plot twist, China's factories, #1 globally, making everything you see. And get this, Americans' new mission, bring factories back, rebuild our industry. Sound familiar? See, Mao knew something deep. Factories aren't just buildings, their power, their future, their survival. Think about it. From fixing bikes to making rockets, from zero factories to workshop. The secret, start small but start. Learn fast, keep building, never stop growing. That's why today, every nation wants what? Industrial power, just like Mao said way back then. Now your turn, drop a like if you agree.
China hasn't been a socialist country since the death of Mao Zedong and the capitulation of the Gang of Four, or rather the coup against the Gang of Four. You see, after Mao Zedong's death, a certain figure took power, a certain person known as Deng Xiaoping, who introduced neoliberal, neo-colonial, and capitalist reforms. He liberalized the Chinese economy, he ushered in neo-colonial projects into Africa and the Middle East and Latin America, and he openly contradicted many of the Marxist-Leninist and what would become Maoist teachings that originated, or rather developed within China. As a Maoist, it's so heartbreaking seeing what China has become. What was once the capital of the revolutionary spirit of communism has now degraded into state capitalism and a hesitant country to admit its own flaws, with a fan base so dogmatic, so non-Marxist, right? You have individuals who call themselves Marxist-Leninists, but they follow the path of Deng Xiaoping, they follow the path of Nikolai Bukharin, they follow the path of the capitalist roaders. And because of this, you have weird MLs who think that Russia is a communist country, that Iran is a communist country, that anyone that fights against US imperialism is progressive. And to a degree, it is. But falsely claiming that these countries are socialist is a contradiction on what Marxism is. Take it like this. In 1917, the USSR itself, after its formation, was the capital of revolutionary spirit, before it too fell to capitalist restoration and rightist tendencies within the Bolshevik Party. Unfortunately, the same happened for China after Deng Xiaoping's takeover of the CCP and the rightist tendencies that developed in the CCP. We are seeing China trade with Israel and facilitating the genocide in Gaza. We are seeing China embark upon neo-colonial projects in Sudan, in Africa in general, right? In Latin America, right? It is Marxist and it is Marxist-Leninist. It is communist to criticize China. Anybody with Marx himself would criticize China. Mao Zedong, if Mao was alive to this day, if Mao was alive right now as we speak, he would abhor what China has become.
Ever been criticized and felt hurt? Let me share a genius mindset. People ask Chairman Mao, can we criticize your beliefs? Can we criticize senior leaders? His answer, mind-blowing. If something can't handle criticism, it's probably not worth keeping. Choose welcome challenges. Here are 3 powerful mindset shifts. Strong ideas loves text. Think about it. If something breaks under questions, maybe it needs to break. That's how we grow. Nobody's perfect, new or experienced. We all have blind spots. Feedback shows us where to improve. Make criticism normal, like brushing your teeth, like having breakfast, just part of daily life. How to use this today? Boss giving feedback, they are helping you level up. Friends point out mistakes. 3 lessons for growth. Remember this, good criticism, pure gold. Bad criticism, no harm done. Try this right now. Next time someone criticizes you, just say, thanks for helping me grow. Double tap if this helped.
Mao has the highest kill-to-death ratio in Asia, but hey, socialism. Actually, the era of Mao saw China go through the fastest increase in life expectancy that's ever been seen in human history. There were famines during the early periods of industrialization, but China had been experiencing famines for years previous to that. And after Mao, there haven't been any more famines in China because of the industrialization and economic development that they were able to achieve. Without Mao's industrialization policies, China never could have become the economic superpower and fastest growing economy on earth that they are today. You can see here that poverty has also massively decreased in China, while hundreds of millions of people are still in poverty in India, which is a comparable country in terms of population and geography. This right here shows the difference between socialism and capitalism. And again, this would have never been possible without Mao. And Mao's policies that were mocked in the West, like the backyard furnaces, were actually necessary. Because China had been a feudal, impoverished country for hundreds of years, so they didn't have any factories or anybody who knew how to work with steel. They had to teach these peasants how to be steel workers so that they could industrialize and bring people out of poverty. It's actually incredible what they've been able to accomplish considering what they started with. To learn more about this, check out my video called Imperialism and the Construction of Modern China on our YouTube channel Midwestern Marks, and be